Hello and welcome to Car and Bike. We have a very special guest, Eric Vas, President of Bajaj Auto's Urbanite EV division, and talk a lot about the Chetak brand and the future of the EV business. Thank you for joining us, sir. Let's to 2019. It's been almost 4 years now since the Chetak brand was introduced, right?
Since it was unveiled, yes. Introduced into the market in February 2020.
2020.
So 3 years.
3 years. So what's been the journey like over this past 3 years from where you started and till now?
A lot of learnings, and that was our objective when we got into this business. We wanted to understand the electric vehicle space. We wanted to understand how segments are likely to form and evolve, consumer segments for electric vehicles, and what kind of product solutions we need in each of those segments. So we have a single product offering, which is the Chetak Premium.
Yep.
So we are sitting only in one segment right now, but this is a market with many segments. So yes, we are at one end, but we have a fairly good understanding now of the market. We also sit in another end of the segment where we don't operate, but we supply to Yulu in mobility as a service, which by the way is another huge segment. Okay, so we sit at, if I may use the term, the two ends of the segment in commuting.
Yeah. So Chetak being an EV in that space, like you said, in the commuter electric vehicles, personal mobility space, sits at a unique position because it's got an iconic name to begin with. It's relaunch of an iconic name from the Bajaj family, and also because its styling is completely different from the rest of the other EVs that you see in the market. It's got a more retro, rounded kind of a styling, metal body and all that.
I always prefer the word timeless styling.
Yeah, timeless.
Yeah, I think you can look at a Chetak today, you look at it after 20 years, of course it won't remain the same in styling, but you'll see the lineage and it will be good on your eyes. And I think that's the point of timeless styling, it remains timeless.
Right. So it's got a fair few features, very nice to ride, very comfortable ride quality. We've also, of course, reviewed it in the past. But the EV, your competitors, the new startups and lots of new products, there's a whole lot of buzz, fancy new features, talk about range, talk about performance. So where does Chetak stand in comparison to, and where do you think is there any scope for improvement or upgradation of the model?
We can always improve, but let me tell you what Chetak stands for. Chetak stands for a vehicle which will be reliable, durable, high quality, and will just deliver seamlessly for the customer transportation. Okay, and what we aspire for is, if you take a vehicle which is say 3 years old, 4 years old, which has run 40-50,000 kilometers, and you put all the vehicles in the industry out there in front of you, we believe the Chetak will look the best. It will be least deviant from its original form. That's the mechanical quality of the product. We believe it will have the fewest breakdowns. It will have the lowest incident of repairs and cost of repairs for the customer. And when you measure the SOH of the battery, we believe that we will by far have the best SOH of everybody on the road, because we spent a lot of technology on that battery to make sure that it has the longest life possible. Yeah, so in other words, the consumer can use it for another 40,000 kilometers without worrying about that battery dying on him.
Right.
Yeah, so that is our aspiration for the Chetak, and I think based on data we have, because we do this kind of tracking of vehicles, I think we have achieved a fair level of success in that, not just from our original targets, also vis-a-vis probably some of the competitors we talked about. I think the proof of the pudding is how many customers are prepared to come and take. As someone said, there's less buzz. I don't think there's less buzz. There's certainly a desire among consumers that, look, I would like the Chetak, but I can't afford to pay this amount of money. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, we have priced it at a particular point. We will, of course, address consumers in other segments from the one where we are currently operating, and that will come with other products that we'll bring into the market. But I think we've succeeded in a very big way with Chetak. You know, not all consumers want, you know, connectivity all the time. The proof of the pudding is how many consumers are actually paying people for connectivity. The answer is people are giving away connectivity free. And that, I think, tells you something about the consumer and what they really value versus what they say they value.
Yeah. So reliability is one thing that you've talked about.
That's
and
right.
You've really emphasized on. Over the past couple of years, we've seen a mushrooming of, you know, brands, so to say, fly-by-night operators, if you will, brands we haven't heard of in the EV space particularly. Is there space in the market for so many brands, or do you think there'll be a consolidation going forward, or there'll only be a few brands which will survive going forward as the EV space evolves?
I think, you know, this space is growing so fast. We've seen the growth over the last 2 years. We had close to 400% growth in the last financial year. This year we are already clocking around 200 plus percentage growth on registered electric vehicles. I'm not even talking about the unregistered ones. And you have this massive unregistered low speed electric vehicle.
Less than 25 kilometers per hour.
Less than 25 kilometers per hour speed limit and a certain power limitation on the motor as well. So yes, I think there's room for a lot of brands in this market at this point in time. Because I think in any emerging category, you're going to get new entrants. And that's a fact. This is an emerging category. You have still not seen all product forms play out. So you will see new entrants. Yeah, eventually consolidation will happen. I think you'll probably start seeing signs of consolidation in other, certainly after March 2024, when current FAME subsidy expires and will get replaced by something else, which the government will announce in due course. You will start seeing consolidation.
So, talking about the FAME subsidies, March 2024 is just a year away, and in these days, year goes by like that. So, what's your take on the whole subsidy point of view?
I don't have a take. The government decides the subsidy. But I'm sure the government will come out with some position. We certainly await that position to understand what happens.
Okay, so talking about the government regulations, you know, there have been a lot of incidents of late, past couple of years on fires and safety incidents across different brands, smaller brands. So, do you think there's a, you know, mismatch between regulations due to government regulations about safety regarding this whole EV ecosystem?
So actually the government has taken action. You know, there were a couple of fires, and you know, the point to make, I think in any evolving industry, you're going to face these challenges. So it's no surprise it happened. It didn't happen to us, and I think that also shows that when you engineer a product well, things don't go wrong. Okay. Of course, they can go wrong, but if you take good care in engineering, take good care in your design, manufacturing, sales and after sales. So, for example, we insist on earthing for a reason from our consumers. You know, it's a basic safety issue. You should earth. Can you delete earthing? Yes, of course you can, but there are consequential risks. Should one take that? That's a call every OEM has to take on its own. Yeah, so I think consumers are going to learn this over a period of time, that you can get shocks from electric vehicles, you can have a fire while charging, etc. If you don't do the right thing from the socket from where you're charging as well. I think government has been fairly proactive on regulations. They introduced the AIS 156 regulations. The first part of that regulation went live on 1st December 2022, just last year, last month of last year. And the second part is going to go live on 31st March this year. So very shortly. So we will, of course, whoever sells in the market have to comply with that. We would certainly comply in advance with that. So I think regulations will come as the learning happens in this industry, and I must say the government has been fairly proactive on the regulation front.
So India, as everybody is aware, is the biggest two-wheeler market in the world right now, and the EV space is booming like how it's like over the past 2-3 years. We've seen a massive growth.
I mentioned the numbers, 400% last year, 200% this year so far.
Correct. So in 3 years you have one product. So where does Urbanite go from here?
It's a good question. So we have one product because our objectives was, to do two things. One is to learn about this market and understand what are the evolving segments and sub-segments and opportunities.
Right.
The second was to build our independent technologies to be able to support product development and our current product. We've, I think, got a good fix on both. We have a good understanding of what are the segments. We have a good understanding of what it takes to win in those segments. We are addressing only one segment right now. We will address more segments as we go along. I think on the technology side, which is what I call below the hood sort of thing, we've made huge strides over the last 3 years. So today we control all the key IPs in the vehicle, be it motor, be it controller, be it battery and BMS, be it the motor controllers and the vehicle control units. For example, the IP is controlled by Chetak Technologies Limited, which is our company, and it is of course made by tied manufacturers. So I think in that sense we are unique among the two-wheeler OEs in being able to control the IP of every element of the vehicle. And that I think is paying us rich dividends in what I talked about, what is the battery longevity, what is the durability, what is the gap between peak performance and continuous performance on the motor.
Right.
Yeah, so we are able to deliver very handsomely these sort of things to a consumer. And not only that, I think we are the only two-wheeler OEM which is working with two chemistries at this point in time. We are working here with the NMC chemistry, and we are working in the shared mobility space, again our vehicle and our battery controllers and motors with iron phosphate chemistries in the market at the same time.
LFP and NMC both?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a lot of work which has been done to kind of reach that level.
Right.
Both by us and our partners.
So 3 years Chetak, we've seen a fair few Chetak scooters on the road in Bombay, Pune, but it took a while to expand across
we
India.
came quite late to Delhi and NCR, but we are here now, as you can see. We're very proud of our new showroom. We will soon have a similar showroom in the Heritage building in Connaught Place.
Right.
In Delhi also. So yes.
So your pan-India footprint will be roughly what, 50 odd cities?
We are in 55 cities as I speak right now. By 31st March, we hope to be in, we hope more than 80 cities.
Okay.
Maybe touch 85 if we are lucky.
85, wow, that's a rapid expansion.
Yes, we will. Now we have the product, and Managing Director of Bajaj Auto has gone on record to say that we are going to launch a Chetak every year. So we will be launching more products to address other segments in the market.
So from this 0 to 55 touch points that you have expanded on, were there any learnings, were there any particular demographics, particular type of towns or cities which has more response to the Chetak than say a normal metro?
Yes, I mean, you can cross-check with All India data also. It's available thanks to Vahan. Very, very different responses in different geographies. Okay, so for example, you would see penetration of electric vehicles is very high in states like Maharashtra, very high in certain cities. For example, Delhi has high penetration of electric vehicles, but you come to Gurgaon, it's very low penetration. Okay, some of it is due to price. So, for example, in Delhi, the effective price for a consumer of
the subsidies, state subsidies,
it comes to, I think, 1,42,000 rupees or 1,46,000 rupees. The same vehicle, Gurgaon registration, will come to 1,71,000 rupees. So I think some of these which are driven by state subsidies do make a difference. But I think there's a second level of difference that also happens, which is, if I strip out Delhi and Gurgaon effect and I just go at a state aggregated level, why do certain states penetrate very deeply? It's not just price. It is also, I think, the average income level of consumers when they are at a certain level,
right?
They tend to switch to a better long-term solution like electric, where the capital cost may be a little higher, but the operating costs are lower.
And even running distance, smaller towns have less range anxiety.
Yes, that is true. No, I would not say that. I would say, for example, you take a city like Pune and say compare it to a small town. Pune is highly penetrated. And it would not be less than a small town. And Pune has all the problems of charging that a high-rise building has, but people find solutions to that. This is not rocket science to pull a wire of with a 5 amp plug point and earth it locally and get on with the job. You know, you can make an issue about a non-issue. So I think people find solutions. It's just that people realize that, look, electric is actually a very elegant solution to many of my problems. You know, I don't need to go to the petrol pump and you know, fill up petrol all the time. That activity vanishes. Servicing is much less and much faster, much easier to kind of do, because less things get done at service time.
Right.
You don't have to. The bills are very low because there's nothing much that goes wrong with this. And it's a delightful experience to ride an electric vehicle. You know, you got torque on tap.
Yep.
As long as you are not obsessed with range, I think the electric vehicle is a wonderful solution for last mile commuting and local commuting. And I think some of the more developed zones in the country, I think, realize it a little faster. That's all.
So I just came back from test riding a brand new electric motorcycle, one of the startups in Bengaluru. Very impressive product. Bajaj Auto, over the past many years, known for motorcycles, past 20 years. When can one expect an electric motorcycle from Urbanite?
You will have to ask Mr. Rajiv Bajaj that question, but he answered it, I think, partially in the KTM millionth vehicle celebration that we had, where he did speak about a lot of work going on with KTM. And as you know, KTM is a very motorcycle-focused company. So yes, there is work going on, but I would just say one thing, you know, in motorcycles, the consumer expectations are very different from that of last mile commuting.
Right.
So that brings certain consequences on product and product configurations, which come at a fair cost, which is a very big delta compared to, say, a traditional IC engine vehicle. Unlike the scooter kind of application, where yes, there is a delta, but it's not that significant.
All right.
Yeah.
My last question, the Chetak doesn't talk about it being pushed to overseas market. When are we seeing it finally being launched overseas, and where?
You will certainly see it in the next fiscal.
And any particular geography that you're targeting?
I wouldn't want to talk about it. Yes, but yes, it will be overseas.
Yeah,
definitely.
but we know that for a fact that it's going to be launched in Europe, but anywhere else apart from Europe?
I'm not talking about where it's going to be launched. But yes, it will be sent overseas and it will be sold overseas.
And possibly leverage Bajaj Auto's footprint across the globe.
That our international team is working on, how to do that and how to succeed in that. But I think some of the lessons of India have been that you need to create slightly independent footprints for a category like electric vehicle.
Right. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Pleasure joining us.